hear me here, Dr. Padma?
leader is a compass that activates the magnets of curiosity, guides them in the direction of knowledge to reach the shores of success. Pleasant morning to one and all present here. I am extremely privileged in welcoming you all on behalf of the MOC team and the Department of BCom BPS, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, to this astounding event, an international faculty development program on experimental teaching corporate cognizance in association with Tata Consultancy Services, Chennai. Patriotism is not short frenzied outbursts of emotion, but the tranquil and steady dedication of a lifetime. I now request you all to come with us in our patriotic poem.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் மதனமென திகழ்வரத கண்டமிதில் எக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் அக்க சிறு திரை முதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம்பியந்து செய்ய மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
Thank you for instilling the patriotic passion in us. A lamp is the one that indeed signifies knowledge. It does not speak, but shows and spreads purity in the surrounding. It is a way to thank the Almighty for all the endeavors of life. As the start of this remarkable event, let us also light the lamp of brightness. Thank you for illuminating the lamp of passions. Hospitality is an art that embeds true happiness and respect in every soul you care for. Therefore, it never goes out of trend as it underlies in our dream. Now, to welcome you all to this spectacular event, I would like to invite our respectable HOD, Dr. V. Padmanabhan sir, to express his warm cordial.
Very good morning to one and all present here. On behalf of Department of BCom BPS, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore, and on my own behalf, I welcome you all for the 5-day International Virtual Faculty Development Program on Experimental Teaching Corporate Cognizance. It's my pleasure to walk through the FDP, introduce you to the speakers and delegates that have come from all over the globe today to share their knowledge and enhance our mental horizon. I'm proud to announce that this FDP is being conducted along with the Association of Tata Consultancy Services, Chennai. I extend my sincere gratitude in welcoming our respected Principal and Secretary, Dr. B.L. Shivakumar, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science. Welcome you, sir. It's my honor to welcome our today's chief guest, Mr. Professor Ravi Varman K. Kanniappan, Senior Lecturer at Help University, Malaysia, Selangor, Malaysia. Welcome you, sir. With immense pleasure, I welcome the participants all around the globe who showered their interest in joining the FDP with us. I'm proud in saying we have overwhelming response from the world as from South India, 700 plus faculties, from North India, 200 plus faculties, from Philippines, 10 plus faculties, from Malaysia, 10 plus faculties, from Afghanistan, 2 faculties, from Africa, 5 plus faculties, from Muscat, 1 faculty, and from Cambodia, 1 faculty. So total responses for our FDP, 1075. I kind-heartedly welcome you all for this wonderful occasion. I welcome our staff community from our own prestigious institution and all other institutions. Wish you all success learning ahead. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your realm of reception. If your actions inspire others to dream, learn, and become more, you are a leader. Such leaders aren't just born, but are created to create magic in the lives of others. Now, I would like to call upon such a person who instills our learning and inspires us each day. He is none other than Dr. B.L. Shivakumar, sir, Principal and Secretary, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science. I humbly request you to preside over the gathering, sir.
Sir, mic on, sir. Mic on.
Sorry. Thank you, Lini. Very good morning to all present here. At the outset, I would like to welcome Mr. Ravi Varman K. Kanniappan, Yelp University, Malaysia, all the participants for this 5-day FDP program on experimental teaching, corporate cognizance. I believe the Department of BPS has chosen the right topic, the right time. And indeed, I'm very happy to note that there are more than 1,075 participants throughout the world. My appreciation to Dr. Padmanabhan, HOD of BPS department and the convener of this FDP program, Dr. M. Nandani, Professor K. M. Anita, Professor P. Valarmadi, Professor J. Deepak, and my special appreciation to all the student coordinators, Mr. Manigandan, Mr. P. Nandakumar, Uma Mageshwari, Lini, Sruti, Darshini, Vishnu Varshini, and all the participants throughout the world. And indeed, Dr. Padmanabhan and team has taken a big effort. I would like to thank Mr. Stephen from TCS for all the support is extending to us in 2 departments which we have a tie-up with TCS. One BCom BPS, the other one computer science with cognitive system. I believe this 5-day we have great speakers from throughout world, from both teaching and industry, would put some throw some light the current situation, what is happening, and how to overcome all the problem what we are facing now. Once again, I wish the program a great success. Once again, I welcome Mr. Ravi Varman K. Kanniappan, Yelp University, Malaysia. Sir, I welcome you, sir, and thank you one and all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your precision peroration. Every work needs an appreciation, every moment needs a pause, and every experience needs a memory to cherish. We, the Department of BCom BPS, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, feel very happy and blessed to share the memories of this event through a video. I request the technical team to present the video. Thank you, technical team. The art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. Teachers can change the lives of people with just a mix of chalk and challenges. Today, we have one such educator and versatile personality with us, Mr. Ravivarman K. Kaniyappan sir, Senior Lecturer, Help University, Malaysia. He renders advice in the area of corporate training and the formulation of emerging business within the sustainability dimension. He also has a deep-seated knowledge in Asian business environment. He is an avid reader, traveler, and a culinary enthusiast. We are very happy to have you with us, sir. I now kindly request Mr. Ravivarman, sir, to preside over the gathering.
Just give me a minute. Let me just share my slides.
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you all see my slides?
Yes, sir. Sir, kindly, your slide is not shown, sir. So kindly use
Can you
slideshow
see
option to enlarge it.
Can you see now?
No,
Can you
sir.
see? No.
Yes, sir. It is visible, but if
Okay.
you use slideshow option, I mean,
Sure.
the entire window will yes.
Okay. Now it's okay, right?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, still not. Wait, let me just see.
Kindly use slideshow option to present your slide in a full view manner.
Sure. Just give me a minute.
Yes, sir. Sir, in the bottom of your
Just
screen,
give me a minute. Yeah.
fine, sir.
So can you? Is it on slide mode now, Dr.
I think
Padma?
not yet, sir. Not yet, sir. Not yet, sir.
It's now. Can you see that? Actually, it's in
You
the slide
have-
mode on my side, but I'm not
Oh.
sure. Still not on the slide mode.
It is in the slide mode, sir. But if you enlarge it, it will be more visible now.
Okay, sure.
Kindly press F5, sir. F5 button.
Okay, now should be
Yes, sir. Very fine.
okay. All right. Because generally we use Microsoft Teams, so this is Google. It's a bit new to me. All right.
Okay.
So I just got
Thanks.
my nephew to check this out. Okay. A very good morning to you. It's afternoon in Malaysia. Greetings to Honorable Dr. Shivakumar, all right, Principal. And thank you, Dr. Padmanabhan, for inviting me for this wonderful occasion. And I'm really excited because there's more than 1,000 people, academics, who are participating in today's event, all right? And a very good morning again to all distinguished guests and esteemed fellow academicians, all right? This is a turning point in our lives, I would say, simply because we are living through a pandemic. And the very fact that we are living through the pandemic is very interesting because a lot of things are happening, both in the aspects of teaching as well as in the corporate world. So there is a relevant need for us to make this connection, as to make sure that we are able to prepare ourselves not only for today, but also the future, because the level of uncertainty that we have today is extremely high. And it's very interesting again that Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science have picked a very, very apt title for this particular event. All right, the corporate cognizance. Now, corporate cognizance has always been a challenge to the academia, simply because over the period of time, academics have become, well, I would not blame the academics, but to a larger extent, it became very disconnect with what was happening in the corporate world. So in that respect, a lot of effort over the last 20 years have been put both in the academia as well as in the corporate world to create that connectivity between the graduates that we are preparing, the graduates that we are churning out in the world. So one of the key words that we always use is what we call industry-ready graduates. So what does industry-ready graduates mean? Meaning graduates who are able to slip into the corporate world with much ease. That means they are able to become self-starters. So this is a very, very critical element, a very, very critical aspect of the academia, meaning the ability to produce people, who produce graduates who are industry ready. So there are various experiments done over the last, in fact, I would say over the last 50 years post industrial revolution, in trying to create that connectivity. One of the earliest ways of how to motivate people or graduates into the corporate world was instructional based. That means graduates were produced, or other graduates who come into the corporate world are instruction takers. That means they fit in, they're given instructions to produce relevant activity and or to carry out relevant activities and so on and so forth. So you find that with proper instructions, we are able to, the graduates are able to perform. But today the world has changed. Why the world has changed? Not the world has changed, circumstances have changed. World is still the same, but circumstances have changed. Today we need creativity in how both businesses perform and how we have to, as academics, we have to prepare students to connect with the expected creativity within the corporate world. So by virtue of that, there has been so many different experiments, and one of the early experiments was on the aspect of social technical systems. That means trying to connect society or social aspect of people with the technical aspect of what we have in the environment. So there is a profound need to make this connection, because we are human beings. Human beings are not a mechanical entity. All right, it is very organic, and one of the things that we have where we can differentiate us from machine is basically the ability to think. We have the faculty to think. So when we have faculty to think, it means that we have to expose that capacity. Any attempt, all right, any attempt to curtail that, all right, would stifle creativity. So therefore, we both the corporate world as well as the academia has that responsibility to provide, to accommodate that avenue for graduates and people to expound their creativity. So one of the outcome of the social technical system is what we call a flipped classroom modality. So I'm not going to talk so much on the aspect of corporate, but I'm going to look at a technical aspect within our academia, how we can make this happen in order for our students, all right, our young graduates, to make the connection with the corporate world. So the modality that I'm going to introduce to you all today will be what we call the flipped classroom modality. Once again, I would like to thank the organizers, all right, for inviting me, Dr. Padmanabhan. And again, I think I forgot to mention my sincere thanks to Miss Lini, who introduced me just now. Okay, let's just dive into the topic today, all right? So what is flipped classroom, right? A flipped classroom is a teaching strategy that reverses the traditional learning environment by delivering instructional content outside of the classroom. So in a traditional classroom, what happens is we impart knowledge in a self-contained construct, which we call classroom. But here, in a flipped classroom method, we are bringing this learning outside the classroom. So it moves the activities like projects, assignments, and homeworks into the class. That means the learning takes place outside, but in the class, that's where the experiments are conducted. That's where discussions are done. That's where in-depth exposure of a particular topic is done. So when you see here, all right, when you look at this, let me put the pointer out. All right, so in a flipped classroom, all right, you have peer support, teacher support, reasoning, problem solving. So what happens at the end of the day is there will be extensive fluency in understanding whatever topic. Now, this method originally started off in the primary and secondary school level. But in the last 20 years, this particular modality has been extended to tertiary education. And Australian universities and American universities have been extensively have implemented this flipped classroom successfully. And to a larger extent, by virtue of employing flipped classroom, you are even able to bring in the industry into the class. Now, I'll explain to you as we move on, all right? Now, there are 4 pillars of flipped classroom. First is it creates a flexible environment both for learners and educators. What do you mean by flexible environment? Flexible means within a particular topic, you are able to direct, you are able to discuss, you are able to bring the students to the next level of understanding. Likewise, all right, as a learner, as a student, all right, they can also experiment on their own thoughts within that construct of a flipped classroom. That's number one, flexible environment. Number two, learning culture shifting to in-depth discussion with learner-centered culture. That means it is learner-centered, not teacher-centered. In the past, we have this mindset of being a sage. I'm a teacher. My job is to impart as much knowledge as I could. That is traditional method. Today, we get the students to be involved in the learning process. Expound their thinking. So the key word here is thinking, not rote learning. Rote learning means you memorize, sit for exams, you get your results. We are moving away from that. It is no longer going to be rote learning, but the culture of learning is going to be student-centered. Number three, intentional content. So lecturer can determine, meaning lecturer as in academics, can determine the content to optimize learning experience with learner-centered activities. That means you know your students, you know their capacity, you understand the environment where they come from, and then you can fine-tune the content to connect that classroom, to connect that cohort of students with what is happening around them. So this is where, remember I told you about, of course, if you're doing a business course, of course, you are able to bring in the industry to the classroom to explore those ideas and thoughts. The fourth pillar, all right, the fourth pillar of flipped classroom. Lecturers need to observe, provide timely feedback, continuously assess work, and help students master the content. So here we are, of course, as an academic, we are professionals, but it is not just, we are not just going to stop short at imparting knowledge, but we are going to inculcate knowledge. We are going to organically explore new ideas, new thoughts, by welcoming students' input into the discussion so that they are able to connect with their environment. So this is where the general problem lies. When I remember I told you about the disconnect between what students learn in class with what is happening around. So by virtue of a flipped classroom, you are able to make that connection because you are making these students aware of their environment, not a detached kind of circumstances. So you could even explore a particular topic within the context of where the students are, within the context of a global perspective if you want to. So you are able to connect with, of course, the most important thing is you are able to connect whatever they learn. It must connect with their immediate environment. And then we explore into the bigger picture. That means regional or global or whatever not. So these are the four pillars of flipped classroom. It creates flexible environment. It creates a learner-centered culture. The content can be intentionally developed. And of course, as educators, we are able to professionally nurture students' knowledge. Four things. All right. So, what is a in a nutshell? What is a flipped classroom? So, the traditional classroom is teacher-centered. Sage on the stage, and you conduct lecture. You know what sage on the stage? A sage, a guru, imparts knowledge. Students listen, take down notes, and then at the end of the day, they regurgitate whatever they have memorized, learned in exams or assignments or whatever not. That is a traditional classroom perspective. In a flipped classroom, the teacher becomes a facilitator, guide on the side of whatever activities they do today. That means the teacher nurtures students' capability. The teacher nurtures students' curiosity. Of course, as I've said, professionalism, and this is going to take a lot of time, all right, a lot of effort on the teachers, from the teacher's perspective or from the lecturer's perspective. Definitely, all of us can empathize in this situation, whereby it is very easy to be a simple, straightforward teacher using the traditional classroom, whereby the sole objective would be to complete the syllabus. Done deal. That's old school. Today, it is not just about imparting knowledge, but trying to expound students' creativity, allowing students to put in their their input, their knowledge in whatever areas that they are teaching. So these are things that we have to be mindful. So there is greater accountability. Of course, there's greater responsibility. That means as a lecturer, we have to think out of the box and be prepared for any uncertainty that may arise in class. That means you have to always be on what we call an anticipatory mode. Of course, we all recognize the fact that we do not know everything. We start from the fact that we know nothing. We only know so much as what we have read. But beyond that, there's so much of information, so much of knowledge that we do not know. So, in a flipped classroom mode, you find that via the interaction between the teacher or the lecturer and the academic with the students, all right, it is going to bring a whole new, avenue, a whole new level of learning. Okay, so in a traditional, I'm just going to go a little technical now, all right, before we go on into the macro perspective, all right, but a bit technical here. So what actually happens in a just to make a comparison between a traditional classroom and a flipped classroom. In a traditional classroom, the university happens first. That means the teaching happens first, whereby as lecturers, we would give lecture, all right, and we'll do tutorials perhaps, and then we give students homework and assignment, whatever that has been assigned. And students will bring back this to home, all right, home comes second, whereby the students would complete their homework or assignment at home. So a traditional classroom is where the lecturer imparts knowledge in university, gives them assessments, the student takes it back home, all right, and completes the assessment at home. So that is what we call a traditional classroom, which I think all of us are very familiar with. In fact, all of us do that. Now, in a flipped classroom, it's a little different. In a flipped classroom, home happens first, not the university. The home happens first, whereby as a lecturer, all right, you would provide instructional videos. You may even come out with a podcast, all right, or a video to watch or whatever not, right? So you would give this to students first, and what they have to do is at home, they go through all this. And to make sure that the students have an understanding of the topic, you can even give small quizzes or tests where the students can do it online, all right, whereby as a lecturer, you could evaluate their level of understanding of that particular topic that they brought back home to read or to view. Now, this need not be a podcast, need not be a video. It can be even a chapter in a textbook. It does not matter. You can say that week 1, students have to do this. And then based on that, you do a simple quiz. Now, the quiz it may not be an online quiz. You can even have the quiz before you start your class. The next level, the university comes second. So what happens in the university is whatever homework which originally was assigned, or assignments that was originally assigned in the traditional classroom at home, now the students will attend that in the classroom with the presence of lecturer, where the lecturer becomes the facilitator. It is not just merely knowing the traditional exam mode, assignment mode, merely to test what the students know. The flipped classroom is moving away from that. It is not just merely to test what the students know, but now we are going to go to the next level. We want to see how far can the students go. You see the difference? How far can they excel? So it is not just merely testing the knowledge of what they have read and whatever not, but we are facilitating to push the students to the next level. Push the students to explore their own capacity, explore their own creativity. That's what we do. So at home, they do all this, read the text, or we've got a podcast, ask the students to watch, which I do actually, certain topics, all right, I would record it, all right, and put it in my portal, and students are supposed to view that, and then when they come to class, then they would, then we would discuss or do the assignment or homework in class, whereby the lecturer facilitates the process. Okay, all right. So what is the benefits to students? So what happens when what do you call that, when we carry out this flipped classroom approach? Well, number one, you don't have to, a few things. One is, don't have to worry about, number one, being absent and missing content, because they can access it anywhere, anytime, because you may have an online portal or whatever not, where students can actually access it anytime they want, like what's happening today. In fact, sometimes we find that there are also the bright side of a crisis, right? The bright side of a crisis. The bright side of the crisis today, the pandemic today, is because today it has been thrust upon us. Trust, that means, well, to put it bluntly, I would say it has been shoved into us to go online. Thank God, my university, for the last 5 years, all right, we have been exploring the notion of going into blended learning. Blended learning means both face-to-face and offline, virtual and so on. We have been experimenting on that for the last 5 years, and we have gone, trainings were given to training, and workshops were conducted to get ourselves familiarized to this blended learning method. So when the pandemic hit us, we were in a better capacity than most universities. All right, let me tell you, we were in a better capacity in most universities to nicely slip into this online or virtual mode. Okay, but unfortunately, many universities all over the world, all right, were not that fortunate. So they were, like what I said, it was shoved into them. You have to go online. You have to do this. You have to do that. Whatever not. So today, I think even at Ramakrishna College and many of the colleagues from different countries, you have already started experimenting on virtual or rather online content. So that's what I mean. So today we already have that infrastructure in place. You just have to make use of it. So students can access it anytime they want, anywhere. Lessons being taught too fast to comprehend. Like for example, today, I'm giving you this exposure on a brief introduction on what the flipped classroom is. I may be fast, I may be slow. Similarly, as a learner, as a listener, all right, some of it may be too fast, too slow. So by virtue of it being somewhere, parked somewhere in a portal, students can access it, and it can help anyone to comprehend the way it's best suited for them. Okay. Number 3, getting stuck with homework problem with no help. Most students are having this problem. All right. Today, I think the problem is even more compounded with virtual, isn't it? Because students cannot come to college and they cannot ask questions and whatever not. But by virtue of this flipped classroom, the content is is exposed at home, but the students would come to class where they do their homework or assignments, where the lecturer would be there to help them to see through the process. Now remember, the lecturers are facilitators. They are not going to give answers. So don't get me wrong. The lecturers are facilitators to inspire thinking so they can put in they can excel, but not to give them answers. No. Being bored because the content is too easy. Now we have got good students, extremely intelligent students. So certain topics could be too easy for them. They get bored in class. So they can access it at home. If they find too bored, they know, if they are familiar with it, then they don't have to go see through the whole thing. Forgetting old materials and having way to re-access it. This is again another problem, right? So the contents are there, they can check, they can reflect back on those materials at any point of time. So that leaves the students to focus on being an active and responsible learner, because you are transferring the learning responsibility to the learner. It is not about the lecturer completing a particular syllabus, but it is what the student wants to know about that particular syllabus, how the student wants to nurture himself, how the student wants to excel himself in that particular topic in a particular syllabus. Now, working and collaborating with classmates to deepen understanding. Now, this is what the industry wants. This is what the corporate world wants. We don't want people to have a blinkered perspective. We want people to have a more diverse perspectives of a problem. So by virtue of collaborating with classmates in class, that would not only deepen their understanding, but it will also inspire creative ideas. All right? Being in charge of their learning and their success in class. So as a facilitator, we are there helping them to excel. So how far they want to go, whether they even want to go, it is left to the students. And of course, a collaborative learning environment inspires people. Even if somebody who's lazy or slow learner or whatever not, it definitely would inspire others, because it's a collaborative effort. You're looking at what other people are doing, how they're excelling, how they're thinking, right? So this would allow students to be self-motivated towards the subject that is being taught. Working with concepts, they need more support and understanding. Of course, there are some subjects that are, very technical, very conceptual. I teach philosophy, right? One of the most difficult subjects to teach. So if you can't just read philosophy from a textbook, most likely after reading the textbook, you probably won't even understand what the whole thing is talking about. Very often students have that problem, right? So in class, when it's flipped, all right, these difficult topics, difficult concepts can be further explored to make sure that the understanding is achieved. And of course, manage your time to meet given learning objective. So the last one is managing time. So at the end of the day, right, it definitely allows students greater flexibility. Okay, so when you allow this greater flexibility, learning becomes interesting. Learning is not a mundane day in, day out kind of memorize, regurgitate kind of exercise, but more of inculcating curiosity in students. Now, hold to that thought, simply because later when we are talking about the cognizance, corporate cognizance, we can make that connection later. But hold on to that thoughts first. So flipped classroom, what do you call that, activities. What do students do in class? Now, I've been talking about it, all right, and some of you are wondering, so what exactly do students do in class? What are they going to do given the circumstances? I've talked about this and I talked about that. Very abstract. Sounds very exciting. How are we going to translate that into a workable solution? Well, number one, in class, the lecturer work on differentiated activities given by lecturers. So you can break the class into several groups. If it's going to be a group activity, you can break the class into several groups, and each group can discuss different things. For example, let's say you're teaching corporate strategy. How have global companies, or rather, how have multinational companies re-strategized themselves during the pandemic? Of course, for those of you who teach corporate strategy would know. Okay, these are the strategies available. All right, and you're going to cover the syllabus. Maybe you probably would give one or two companies, and that's it, done. But when you give in a flipped classroom, what you can do is perhaps you can, let's say you divide the class into, let's say, four groups. Group one, Procter and Gamble. Look at how Procter and Gamble managed itself, re-strategized during during the pandemic. Now, that is a global, healthcare hygiene product company. Then we look at, on the other side, a homegrown. Now, since we have got a Tata Group as one of the main supporter of this particular event, all right, you can look at Tata Motors. How has Tata Motors managed to re-strategize, manage itself during the pandemic, and how have they re-strategized? Tata Motors, of course, you all know that they are into building hybrid technology. They are into hybrid technology. So, is this the right time to introduce hybrid? So they've got their own issues. So a different industry, motor industry. Then you can look at another group to do on another company from another country. So within, and you can even pick companies that have successfully managed, and you can also pick those companies that have not successfully managed it. So you can have diverse ideas. So each group, you can give them. So the topic is the same. Managing corporate strategy during crisis. One topic. Managing corporate strategy during crisis. But you have given 4 different case studies for students to share, explore. So that way the connectivity is achieved. All right. Work on short-term or long-term projects. One of the things that I do, this is where the corporate cognizance comes in. Earlier, I've talked about a macro perspective, doing case studies. But this on working on short-term or long-term projects, this is another very exciting thing that I and at Health University, we have experimented on, where we actually give students real-time, real problems to solve for various companies in Malaysia. It need not be a big project. It can be a small project, a simple thing like developing a content for a social media event for a company. Simple. Developing a content for a social media event for a company. Simple. All right? Or carrying out a feasibility study for a company that wants to explore into a new business. It can be short, it can be long. So this is where the industry collaboration comes in. So that means while studying in the university, in the college, you find that they are already connecting with real world. That is very important. And as a facilitator, you can nurture these ideas. Of course, let them work on their own, but you can tweak it. Because at the end of the day, we want them to provide the best solution to those collaborative partners. All right. So these are very workable solutions. All right. On the other hand, on a small scale issues, get individual or small group help. All right. An assignment. Earlier on, it's more on industry connectivity. Work on differential activities, work on short-term, long-term projects. All right, this one here is more on, we can do quizzes, we can do individual or small group activities based on, let's say, for example, we can talk about doing a literature review. Do a literature review on a particular topic. Like, for example, I mentioned about social technical systems, STS. You can give the students avenue to explore, do a literature review. What is the latest thought? What are the latest thinking? All right. And of course, you still want to also know whether these students are have the basic idea. These students have basic knowledge. These students have sufficient understanding of the topic. You can do a quiz. No problem. So these are things, these are avenues or activities that you can do in a flipped classroom modality. And some of you may be also worried about regulatory issues. Of course, like in India, in Malaysia, and any other parts of the world, we have regulatory bodies that audit what we do, that audits whether whatever assessments that we do does conform to certain standards, certain parameters they have. Yes, why not? Of course, it's going to take some time to create that. It's not going to be something that you can do it overnight, but it can be done. And maybe later I will also give you some share with you some universities that have been successfully implemented flipped classroom modality, and how they have developed their pedagogy, how they have developed their process, all right, to fit into this modality. Okay. So what flipping enables students to do? All right. So basically, students can pause, rewind, rewatch lessons, learning at their own pace. If it's all posted, in a virtual platform, they can do that. Students can access the content for their class anytime, anywhere on their device. And basically, almost all students today, all right, they have at least a smartphone. All right, that in itself would allow them, all right, have access to access to not only what you have to put on your your content within your own construct, but they can also access to unlimited information anytime, anywhere. Right? And students receive instant feedback, and lecturers can spend more time helping students and explaining difficult concepts. So the role of the lecturer becomes, as I've said earlier, facilitator, but the lecturer also focuses on exploring in-depth knowledge. Exploring not just the breadth of knowledge, but the depth of knowledge as well. So this is something that we have to understand. See, by virtue of flipping, all right, you are actually making learning interesting, making learning exciting, because you are transferring the responsibility to the students. Students would now realize that how much they want to learn, how much they want to acquire knowledge would ultimately depend on themselves and not on the textbook or what the lecturer is going to impart. So that means the key element here is to arouse curiosity. Number one. Number two, to be aware of their environment. Cognizance. That's the key word here, cognizance. And if you're a business student, then cognizance to the corporate world is critical. But even if you're not a business student, even if you're a science student, it doesn't really matter. Let's say you're doing applied science, applied applied biology, for example. There are so many avenues, right, at the end of the day, that can serve mankind, that you can connect. It is not just learning biology, but how what you have learned can help mankind, can help business. Who would have thought, and I'll just give you an example, who would have thought the material produced by spider web, spider web, the material produced by spider web today has been used to make bulletproof vest. Bulletproof vest? They are using the spider web material to make bulletproof vests. But the question is, how are you going to harvest spider webs? It's going to be a daunting task. Spiders, a particular species of spider, produces this particular material which is known to be 10 times stronger than steel. 10 times stronger than steel, but lightweight. So, for a soldier, a bulletproof vest is important. But then again, a bulletproof vest, a conventional one, can weigh about anything between 10 to 15 kilograms heavy. So they were looking for lighter material, and they found that material in the spider. But the problem is, how are you going to harvest this spider web thingy? So that's when they put their mind to it, and they found a solution in silkworms. So they mesh the spider's DNA with the silkworm, and instead of producing silk, this particular worms produce the same material that the spider makes. Biology solves problem. And today, this particular material, now originally it was to make bulletproof vests, but today they're going to use this particular material in building, right? Construction. So look at that. So this is where you talk about cognizance, not just about studying biology in a technical perspective or studying mathematics in a technical perspective, but the ability to connect it with the environment. And particularly here, we are narrowing it down to corporate world, business, right? So this is very interesting. So that means you, as a lecturer or as an academic, all right, whether you teach maths or science or English or whatever, doesn't matter what it is. You have to create that curiosity in students' mind, and you have to make sure that you connect it with what's happening around. That makes a lot of sense. So what do students do at home? This is a bit, very easy here, nothing difficult here. So they watch 5 to 10 minutes of video, take notes and copy, exam pause, rewind, whatever not. And at the practice part in the video, pause and complete exercises. If there's any exercises, you can ask students to do the exercises, all right? And after watching, now this is important. After watching the video, whether it's your podcast or TED Talks video or whatever, all right, there are two outcomes that must come out of that home learning. Number one, what did the student understand most from that podcast, from the literature they have read at home, from the video they have watched? Number one. Number two, which part is least understood? Two things. What did they most understand and what did they least understand? So by virtue of this, as a lecturer, you would be able to find the gap between what the students know and what the students need to know. So in class, what happens is, as a lecturer, as an academic, we bridge the gap between what they know and what they need to know. It cannot be they don't know. It can't be they don't know what they need to know, but they're missing. So this is where we bridge the gap. So this is very, very critical. Right? So it is not just merely reading, all right, but with the test and so on, all right, with the respective tests and quizzes that you give, you would be able to gauge it. So in class, what happens is, as a lecturer, as a facilitator, we can explore that area. One of the things that I personally do is instead of giving students technical content, theoretical content, I expose them, right? Instead of giving those kind of content, I expose them with like watching a movie that is connected with the topic. All right. For example, there's a movie called on what do you call that? On corporate scandal. There's a movie called Erin Brockovich. I asked the students to watch that movie in order to understand corporate scandal pertaining to ethical misconduct. So ethical misconduct is a theoretical perspective, a philosophical theoretical perspective. But in order for students to understand that fully, watch the movie, all right? Everybody likes to watch a movie. Watch the movie, and then when we come to class, we can explore the theoretical underpinning. Then they make the connection. So I actually use movies, all right, in movies or videos or documentaries in order to help students to make the connection, create the awareness. Because when you teach theory as it is, you find that it is rather dry. Unless if the student has an innate curiosity or interest in that particular area, anything that is theoretical, they will try to stay away. Unless that person has a natural affinity towards the topic. Otherwise, they will stay away. So how do we make the connection? Bring in something exciting. Everybody like to watch movie. Let's do that. And that makes the connectivity with the subject that we are talking about. So this is very critical. This is something that all of us need to be cognizant of. Right? We have to be cognizant of that as an educator, so to speak. Okay, so in the flipped classroom, all right, just give me a minute. In the flipped classroom, all right, the responsibility for learning, all right, flip from lecturer's hand to student's hand. That's my dogs actually. Sorry for that. So responsibility for learning flip from lecturer's hand to student's hand. That is the main theme of a flipped classroom. So it is no longer about what I said just now. Sage. I'm the boss. You just listen to what I've got to say and do as I say. No more. Now, I want to hear from you what you have to say. What do you know about this topic? What do you understand about this topic? What are your concerns about this topic? All right. Simple as that. This morning I had a discussion with another group of students. And I asked them, what is the greatest damage? What is it? Tell me one thing that has greatly affected mankind. The world today, not mankind, the world today. What is one thing that has affected the world today? Some say COVID-19. Some of them say politics. Some of them say technology, all kinds of things. And then I said, oh yeah, all that are fine. Then one of the students asked me, sir, what do you think is the greatest damage to the world? And I said, cement. You know cement? Cement. And they all went like, cement? Why, sir, cement? Curiosity. Out of the blues, I'm throwing in. They're talking about politics. They said, the virus and environmental damage and all kinds of things. And when they asked me, because I didn't want to say anything. And one student said, sir, can you share with me what do you think? I said, cement. Why cement? And I gave a full explanation of that. I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, that is critical. That means the students are curious enough to ask for more. So it becomes a learner center. Number 2, face-to-face time flip from teacher focus to student focus. That means, you see, one of the things that disconnects academics with students is this. Academics, we are here. Students, they are here. It's a natural difference. Why? The natural difference is a simple thing. Biological difference is they are much, if they are undergraduate student, all right, most likely they will be much younger than you, younger than me. So therefore, the respect, natural. All right. Secondly, in terms of knowledge, as a lecturer, of course, you are more knowledgeable in terms of more qualification and exposure and so on. Therefore, you're here. So there's always this sort of disconnect. So you cannot expect students to come to your level to see you equal. But you have to go down to the students' level to see you equal so that they are able or willing to share. But if we have this attitude of, I'm the boss, I know what, I know everything, and you just listen to me, then there's going to be that, disparity is going to continuously be there. And when that disparity exists, you may find that it would stifle knowledge, creativity, stifle students' ability to wanting to know more, because they may be afraid, they may be shy, they may be timid, all kinds of things can happen. But if you want to inspire students, if you want students to be more cognizant of what's happening around, you have to allow them to speak. So when you allow students to communicate and discuss a particular topic amongst themselves, as you being a facilitator fitting in, as and when, you find that they would see you as a motivator rather than a boss. It makes a difference. Makes a lot of difference. The third one, focus in class, flip from lower order thinking, which is at home, to higher order thinking in classroom. This is what we want. All right. It's not merely about psychomotors, memorizing, learning, regurgitating. That's fine. But we want to go into a next level, cognitive, higher order thinking, which is very, very critical in learning, very critical in inculcating creativity. I think one of the most popularly used word, what do you call that, 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 popularly used word, what not just popularly used word. I think one of the least understood word is thinking out of the box. I think many of us have come across that word very frequently, and many of us have actually used it very frequently. But what does thinking out of the box mean? Before we go even into thinking out of the box, we have to know what is the box first. How big the box is. What is the size of the box, shape of the box, content of the box. If we do not understand this, then no matter how hard you try, you can't go out of the box, because in the first place, you don't understand, you don't know the existence of the box. You don't understand the construct of the box. So, in a flipped classroom modality, we are able to help students to understand the box. Help students to understand the box and help them to see from outside the box, as well as to see from inside the box. Inside out, outside in. Facilitator. But what they think, how far they think, that is left to the students' capacity, capability, and how far the student wants to excel. Right? So a lot of things, like for example, one of the things that I do in my class, I'm just sharing my own experience, right? Probably, I'm sure many of you have your own experiences. One of the things that I do in order to create this corporate cognizance with my students, especially undergraduate, I'm not worried about postgraduate students, but especially undergraduate students, is to be able to be aware of corporate stakeholder expectation. Many a times, students see a business purely from a consumer perspective. But to have a holistic idea, they have to put themselves, be empathetic, and put themselves in all the stakeholder shoes. Put themselves in, be empathetic to all the stakeholders. In a complete business ecosystem, there are various players, various stakeholders, and a student, all right, need to put themselves into all these stakeholders. And how can they do that? They can only do that if they are involved. Not just as an assignment, but as a real life case experiment. Real life project, like what I mentioned just now. I teach the subject called Innovative Product Development and Management. It's a third year subject for marketing students. Innovative Product Development and Management. Of course, there's a textbook there. There's a process involved. I can go the simple way of telling them, okay, this is what it is, the process, and whatever not, and done. That's the easy way out. But what I do is, I get the students to actually come out with an innovative idea, adopting a company, and I generally try to work with SMEs, small, medium-sized enterprises, small and medium enterprises. I work with SMEs because they are the ones who need expertise and assistance most, not the multinationals. Multinationals, they have got their own capacity, they have got their own expertise, and more importantly, they have funds to hire the best. But it is the SMEs are the ones who are stuck. They are there, they're doing well, but they can't progress to the next level. They can't graduate to the next level. So these are the corporations that are companies that need sort of help. So I get my students to, work with these SMEs. Pick one SME, come up with a solution, and let me tell you, many of these SMEs are very thankful. They have even paid, they don't have to pay, but they've even paid my students for the idea that my students have come up with to help them. And many of my students eventually get a job in that respective company. So this is exciting. So students are motivated because this is the higher order thinking, not just regurgitating the steps, processes. What's the point? See, case study is fine, but case study is still still has the disconnect. So, but when you give them a project, a live project for them to do, that would sort of change the entire ball game altogether. Right? Students start seeing things in a different perspective. Okay. So, in a flipped classroom mode, right? What can we do? Work one-on-one with every student in class every day as they need, and work with individuals and small groups in classes. Differentiation. We can group people into different, composition. You can work one-to-one, assuming if you've got a smaller class, of course you can do that. If you've got a larger class, you can divide them into smaller groups. Okay? And you can actually change the composition of the of students who are in that particular group. Of course, one of the things I do is I tell them, hey students, first day I will tell them, okay, all of you, please divide yourselves into groups of 5, let's say. Obviously, what will happen is all the 5 in that particular group will be friends. Normal, natural affinity to form a group with people they know. First day. And of course, I'll give them tasks. Then what I'll do is, of course, meanwhile, I'll be assessing each group and looking at individuals. Fast learners, intelligent, slow, lazy, hardworking, curious, whatever. And then I mix and match them and show them the result. How they perform as this group, how they perform with this group, and whatever not. So you can experiment on that and show them in action. Okay? Creating a dynamic, engaging, and interactive classroom focused on student-to-student interaction. This is important. All right? Dynamic engagement. That means you got a topic, you got a problem they need to solve, all right? And you allow the students to interact amongst themselves. All right? Show them. Now, this diversity is very important. So classroom environment is very important. And, well, I have this liberty, all right? I do not know whether all of you have this liberty or not. Sometimes I actually have my class outside my class. I mean, when we had our normal face-to-face, now, of course, it's all online. It's a different thing altogether. But when I used to have my usual face-to-face classroom, the normal, prior to the pandemic, I actually have my class outside the classroom. So where do I have the class? I may bring my class to McDonald's. And the problem here is I'm giving them a problem pertaining to McDonald's. Let's say I may say customer service. So I may divide the class into various groups and say, okay, let's have the class in McDonald's. And then they're supposed to observe, discuss. Of course, they buy, they can just buy a drink in McDonald's. Here is quite student friendly. In Malaysia, it's very student friendly. The moment they see students, they're very excited. So anyway, we can do it at McDonald's. Sometimes I bring them to a park near our university. That's in our city park is quite nearby. I bring them to the park. So you change the dynamics of the environment and see what is the outcome. Because people think differently in different setup. All right, so you will have that flexibility. So it doesn't mean a flipped classroom mode must be conducted in a conventional classroom. Not necessary. You can go on site and you conduct the flipped classroom mode. You can even do it in a company, for example. Let's say, since Tata Consultancy is here today, All right, you can make arrangement for your classes to be conducted. You can, I'm sure the company would have a meeting room or a small a hall or whatever not. You can conduct it there. Get the students a feel. Example, student support. Students who might not have technology or parent to help them outside the university now have lecturers guiding and supporting them in class. This is the biggest problem that in fact now I think all of us can share that problem. Can share that issue. As much as we all have gone online, not all students have equal access. Not all students have equal quality of access to online. Signals are poor, they don't have the right device, all kinds of things. So in a conventional mode, all right, let's say, when you don't have that, when classes are back to normal, all right, the lecturer can use the classroom in order to help those students who are weakened by virtue of weak infrastructure outside the class. Possible. All right? So these are critical. That's why they say, right, if one of the biggest notion in early childhood education, if parents are educated, most likely the child would have the right kind of support at home to complete the assignment, to complete the homework, whatever not. But let's say the parents are not educated, then what happens? Although they may be in the same class, one student, educated parents, another student, not so educated parents. The quality of the home environment determines the quality of learning of that particular student. Am I correct? I think all of you can share that. So when that happens, all right, there is a disconnect. It seems unfair. So how can this be overcome? Well, the flipped classroom mode can solve that problem, where the lecturer can, the teacher or lecturer can spend that time, all right, to bridge the gap, all right, between what the disconnect that happens at home. All right, and lastly here, revisit concepts students don't understand in more differentiated environment. This is connected to the earlier point. Give them different examples. Allow them to appreciate the problem from a different perspective. All these are and can be done in a flipped classroom mode. Okay, so therefore, who is this method good for? It can meet the demands of any student. It can meet the demands of a struggling student. We have seen many students are struggling. We can use the flipped classroom to help those struggling students. It can also help on grade level students, students who are okay, average. See, the average students need to be pushed to excel. They're average not because they do not have the right aptitude, but because they don't have the right mindset, perhaps. So that is where we, as a lecturer, as an educator, we can sort of inspire that. High achieving students. Now, in a class, you have a weak student and we also have a high achieving student. But what happens when we take a mid path? When we take a mid path in imparting knowledge, the high achieving students are going to get bored and the struggling students will be still struggling. And we think that we are doing justice by taking a mid path. But actually, we're not doing justice at all. But in a flipped classroom method, we are able to allow the high achieving students to even further excel. And then there are also gifted students. I'm not sure how many of you have actually come across gifted students, right? So far, in my experience, I've never come across any gifted students. All right. If you have time, watch this TV drama called Young Sheldon. Young Sheldon. It's a TV series. I think I can watch it on YouTube. I think you should be able to. It's about a young boy who is gifted, and the struggle he goes through in school, in college later, and so on and so forth, because he's gifted, highly intelligent. So in a flipped classroom, you can even accommodate these gifted students by giving them different tasks to explore. And then students who have checked out. Now, these are students who may have not been able to complete their studies in the normal process, may have taken 2 or 3 years off because of circumstances. It could be because they don't have the means, they fell sick or whatever, and then they rejoin back, all right, into the system. So you can also help these students to fit in. They could be definitely older than the other students, all right, but with the flip approach, you are able to even accommodate that student and not just leave that student to be part of the mess. And of course, there are students who love to learn. You can inspire further curiosity. So you find that this flipped classroom method is suitable to an array of students, all in one classroom, under one cohort, but you are able to give attention to all of them with different aptitude, different expectation, different motivation level, different struggling level, and whatever. So this is something that we can do. It's not impossible. It's not something that, as I've said earlier, all right? It has been experimented. It has been successfully implemented in many universities. So therefore, what are the advantages of flipped classroom? Well, students take ownership of learning. All right, we have sort of coming to a nutshell. Students take ownership for learning, number one. It promotes student-centered learning and collaboration. We have spoken about that just now. Lessons and content are more accessible. Okay, because you're putting it in a portal, or it can be a podcast, it can be a literature, it can be videos, whatever not, all right? It emphasizes on cooperative learning, all right? Emphasizes on cooperative learning, all right? Because you're allowing students to intermingle, to explore. It gives more time to explore the content. Just now was exploring their own capability. This one here, it gives time to explore the content. Remember, I said it's not just about the breadth of knowledge, but it's also about the depth of knowledge, which is very important. And it can be more efficient because you are able to take care the interests of a diverse group of people within a single classroom construct. That's the exciting part of it. All right? So, there are different types of flipped classroom. Different types of flipped classroom. So, you have got the standard inverted classroom. You have got the discussion-oriented flipped classroom. You have got the demonstration-focused flipped classroom. You have got the group-based flipped classroom, virtual flipped classroom, and of course, the last one is basically flipping the lecturer. Let's look at it one by one. What are the different types, modality that you have, right? So in a standard inverted classroom, that's the first one, the standard inverted classroom, students are assigned the homework of watching a video lectures and reading any materials relevant to the next day's class first. So during the class time, Students practice what they have learned through traditional school homework with the teachers' feed up for additional one-on-one time. So you give them a traditional assignment of homework, and you, as a lecturer, facilitate and help them through the homework. Not giving them the answers, of course. This is a standard inverted classroom. So instead of doing a homework at home, they'll be now doing homework in class. And here, we can explore further, help students to understand those topics via carrying out the homework. So this is a standard inverted classroom. The next one is the discussion-oriented flipped classroom. Here, teachers assign lectures video as well as any other video relating to the particular day subject. For example, you can use TED Talks. I personally use a lot of TED Talks. In fact, TED Talks are short, precise to the point, easy to understand. Right? And I'm sure one of the very common, one of the TED Talk that I always use. Right? 2 TED Talks. One is the Dabbawala of Mumbai TED Talk, and the other one is the Batman of Tamil Nadu, the guy who came out with this sanitary napkin for women, making it cheaper. I'm sure all of you have known this guy. All right. Amongst all the other TED Talks, I'm just giving you an example. So anyway, you can ask the students to watch it depending on the topic, title, whatever. And then in class time is then devoted to discussion and exploration of the subject. For example, in the Dabbawala TED Talk, you know what's Dabbawala, right? Those guys who collect dabbas from home, cook, and then they'll supply it to the respective clients who are working all over Mumbai. It's Harvard-sanctioned process. And what do we learn from there? We learn about operations management. Operations, effective and efficiency of operations. A simple thing. It's a manually constructed distribution of food from home to office. These guys are middlemen. Food prepared by the mother or wife or whoever not, picked up by this dabbawala, and these dabbas are then sent to the family member who's working, and once it's done, collected back and sent back. Simple process. But if you want to teach operations management, that's a good one. So in class, what we can do is, I tell them the theory of operations management, discuss about theories of operations management, and connect that with this, and then you find the students understand better. The third one, the demonstration-focused flipped classroom, especially for those subjects that requires students to remember and repeat activities exactly. You can talk about teaching chemistry, physics, math, statistics, economics. All right. It is very helpful to have a video demonstration to be able to rewind and rewatch. So that's what students do at home. So what do they do in class? In this model, the teacher uses screen recording software to demonstrate the activity in a way that allows students to follow along at their own pace. So in class, you can use a screen, recording software. I think you are able to do that. There are so many softwares available. The technology is available. You can use that. And you can, if you don't want to use that, you can still use a chalk and board to go through the process. All right? Then the group-based flipped classroom. This model adds a new element to help students learn from each other. Group-based means not just the lecturer teaches, but students learn from each other. The class starts the same way others do, with lecture videos seen or watched before the class. The shift happens when the student comes to class, teaming up to work together on that day's assignment. You can give them a case, a problem to solve. This format encourages students to learn from one another and help students to not only learn the right answer, but also how to actually explain to peers why those answers are right. Justification. Many a times our students know the correct answer, but they don't know why. So rationale, justification are all thrown during discussion. And that is important. It's not just knowing what is the right thing to do, but you also need to know why is the right thing to do. Okay, so group base is where students learn from each other's diversities. Next one is the virtual flipped classroom. Oh, this is more for postgraduate students. All right, postgraduate, not so much for undergraduate, but postgraduate. Yeah? What do you call that? Where you find that in some college university, professors now share lecture videos for students viewing, assign and collect work via online learning management systems, and simply require students to attend office hours or other regularly scheduled time for brief one-to-one instruction based on that individual student's needs. So if you're doing a postgraduate courses, I'm sure many of you are doing postgraduate courses, what we can do, we can have the flip all the information materials back given to the students, all right, for them to access, and then you can have one-to-one discussion with the students. So one of the things that I do this is when I teach, when I do supervision, what do you call that, thesis supervision, right? In a thesis supervision, of course, one is the technical part of it, the process part of it, and the actual research done, right? So the first part of it, I would put it on a virtual platform. And then I would have personal consultation with the students. Meet them periodically to go through it, to help the students to, to improve and whatever not. So this is virtual flipped classroom, which is very apt for postgraduate students. Okay. And finally is the flipping the lecturer. All the videos created for flipped classroom doesn't have to begin and end with teacher. So here what you do is you can ask the students to prepare the video on a particular topic, which I've done as well. Very interesting. You give them an assignment, all right, where students would give them a topic, and then in class, all right, they would show the video, all right, and the lecturer will then assess the video, and collaborative discussion takes place after that in class. So this is very exciting. And students like to do such projects, right? It helps them to reflect on their own capability, help them to reflect on their own knowledge about the topic. And more importantly, when you talk about cognizance, right? A flipped classroom modality allows that cognizance to occur, to be aware of their surrounding, not just knowing what is in the textbook, not just merely knowing what the academic imparts, but exploring beyond that. And this is exactly what corporations want our graduates to be. Expect graduates to have that kind of mindset. All right. So the the final point to note here is, number one, it is not a one-size-fits-all model. All right. No. You have to develop, create a construct based on every class, every cohort of students. You can't just take off the rack, put it in perspective and try to apply it. No. Every cohort has to be treated differently. So that means our responsibility becomes bigger. Workload is bigger then. Number two, every classroom is different with different levels of access to technology, different levels of motivation on the part of the students, and different technological know-how on the part of instructor. Same thing applies. And additionally, number three, additionally, lecturers must relearn how to act as the guide on the side rather than the sage in the center. So we are no longer the sage. We are guide, facilitators. Okay? So final thoughts on the flip. Number one, the flipped classroom is about increasing one-to-one time with our students. That's important. We want to have meaningful connection with our students. We want our students to have meaningful learning outcome. Number one. Flipping allows an experiential learning, both soft and hard skills. Experiential corporate cognizance happens, whether through case studies, real, project-based, gives them experiential learning. Students need to be transitioned. This is a change for them, and change is always not easy. We always talk about paradigm shift. Paradigm shift cannot happen if there's no mindset shift. So we also have to introduce this modality into the minds of students. There must be, it's not sit down and wait for students to, wait for the lecturers to give. Let me tell you, there are also many students. We face that. I come from a private university. Many students pay a lot of money to study at Health University. But the mindset is, I'm paying, therefore you are supposed to give me. No. Students do come with this attitude. Yes, I'm not saying no. But you have to change this mindset. You are here, you're paid for nurturing your knowledge. You did not pay to be given knowledge. No, nurturing. Two different things. Pay to be provided with knowledge, pay to nurture knowledge. Two different things. This mind shift has to occur before there's a paradigm shift. Don't look at the flipped classroom as a way to get more materials covered, but an avenue to cover things in more in depth. It's not the breadth of knowledge you want to cover, it's the depth of knowledge. Using ideology has the ultimate goal of increasing students' understanding and ownership of the content. Students now own the content. We have spoken about that just now. And flipping classroom prepares students to real-world connectivity. And that's what we want, all right? Flipping classroom prepares students to real-world connectivity. And that is very critical. That's what we call cognizance. And here we are connecting it with corporate cognizance. It's not a textbook knowledge, but going beyond textbook knowledge. So what does teaching with cognizance mean? Some of the principles that I keep to myself, or rather I adhere to myself, adhere to it. And I would like to share that with everybody. The cognizance authority would not destroy intelligence. What is cognizance authority? Cognizance authority means the ability to create awareness, create the connectivity with the environment where we, the students, lecturers, are in. So you inculcate, you develop, you inspire intelligence. But on the other hand, unconscious authority will destroy intelligence. You know what's unconscious authority? Hey, look, I've got a PhD in astrophysics. What would you know? I've worked 20 years in XYZ company. What would you know? That is what we call academic arrogance. Academic arrogance would stifle creativity amongst our students. In fact, to some extent, they would permanently damage their ability to expose and explore their own creativity. Remember that. And I always believe intelligence only emerges with creative freedom. We have to give that freedom of thoughts to our students. All right? If we stifle with our arrogance, all right, what we call academic, intellectual arrogance, some people use that word as well. Do not do that. You are not doing justice to anybody. Perhaps we may be boosting our own ego, but we are doing total injustice to a learning environment. Okay? So, lastly, I'm coming to the last bit of my presentation. So, the need for corporate cognizance. Number one, establishing a genuine interest towards the corporate world. That means we need to make sure that our students have genuine interest towards the corporate world and not just look at themselves as consumers. They should empathize and appreciate all corporate stakeholders in the entire business ecosystem. Whether it's the government, whether it's the suppliers, the the distributors, the general public, or whoever it is, the customers, all right, whatever. They have to empathize. They have to appreciate. Only then they would be able to fit in. They are able to see holistically. Number 3, to embrace aspirations of corporate performance. Understand corporate goals. Why businesses behave in a particular way. Why businesses should not behave in a particular way. What should be the way that corporations should behave. Number 4, challenging existing business practices. Thinking out of the box. All right? If Amazon did not think out of the box, we would not even have the explosion of online business as what we see today. They took the first initiative to go online to retail books. Books, Amazon. Today, Amazon has gone into many businesses, but their first business was to retail books online. Challenging existing brick and mortar business. You can see that. Anyway, we're not going to go into that, but understand what challenging existing business practices mean. To stay ahead of competition. Today, we are living in a naked world. I always say that to my students, to everybody. We're living in a naked world. Google knows more about every one of you than you know about yourself. Facebook knows more about your characteristic than you know about yourself. Means what? It is a competitive world. Everybody has built profile. Every corporation are very precise in the way they do business. So they want to stay ahead of the herd. So innovative ideas need to come out, need to be churned out frequently. All right? That awareness must be there. Students need to possess entrepreneurial skills. Today, there's this concept called intrapreneurship. Many organizations today have created intrapreneurial project-based environment. No longer the hierarchical environment. Every unit has become profit centers. And they're supposed to perform. And each unit, department, division becomes an internal entrepreneur within the organizational construct. So therefore, entrepreneurship is something that students need to inculcate. Students need to equip with strong influencing and business skills. I think this, I don't have to say, you need to have that. And lastly, to be able to speculate intelligently about the future, how the future is going to be. And to me, one of the earliest inspiration that I have is watching this program called Star Trek. I do not know how many of you know about. I'm a Trekkie. Those who are into, I was watching Star Trek since 1969. It was in black and white TV program until now. You can Google search what Star Trek is. And I was highly inspired by them because what I saw in 1969, 1970s, what they were able to put forward as an imaginative construct today is already happening. A simple thing like your cell phone. In 1969, there was no cell phone. But in Star Trek, they had a device like cell phone-like device, smartphone-like device. But today it's possible. That means these guys, Gene Roddenberry, the producer of the writer and producer of Star Trek, was able to extrapolate what is going to happen in the future. That means intelligently think, imagine, visualize. So we need students like that. We need to have that kind of people who are able to connect with the business world so that they can bring the business to the next level. I hope my presentation, my sharing of ideas, sharing of thoughts have in some way assisted you, help you to think further, because learning is lifelong. There's more to learn, more to improve, and I hope all of you have some idea as to what flipped classroom is and how it can connect with corporate cognizance. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Dr. Padmanabhan, and thank you to Sri Ramakrishna College for spending this little time with you to share my thoughts on what flipped classroom is all about and how this can bring teaching to the next level. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Words of wisdom on flipped classroom.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Hi.
About you had said that what has affected the world so much. You said about the cement. Can you please give more information on that?
The first thing is cement has actually changed our musculoskeletal structure. Now, spondylitis. Do you know why? Because man was never built to walk on flat surface. Have you seen monkeys, primates? If you look at their feet is like this. They walk like this. How do we walk? We walk like this. We are supposed to grip when we walk, but we don't grip because the cement has made like this. So what has happened is it has put a lot of pressure, all right, on your spine all the way right up to your neck. And because of this, there's so many musculoskeletal deformities that is occurring in people today. That's why even young people as young as 6 years old, 7 years old, right up to, I can, if you relate back 20, 30 or 50 years ago for some of you, who gets back problem? Even old people get back problem. But today, young children are having back problem simply because the cement, that's one example, the cement has changed our structure. And we are not equipped to do that. One example. Cement produces the largest carbon dioxide in the world. Not because of all these other pollution like burning, and so on. Cement production, cement produces the largest amount of carbon dioxide in the world. I can share some literature later with Dr. Padmanabhan. He can share with the rest of you. All right. Anyway, the topic is not on that, but yeah, interesting that you're curious. So perhaps that I have inspired you, all right, on the topic on cement. You can go and Google search it, but I'll share some articles with Dr. Padma. He can share with you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Over to Lini.
Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom on flipped classrooms. I hope the session was clear and informative to all. The forum is now open to all for the Q&A session. The participants can ask the speaker questions if any. Now the time is yours.
Okay, there's one question from Mayank Pulshetra for the reference of content and materials. How do I organize to flipping our classroom? Okay, now very simple. Your syllabus is your guide. The syllabus has topics. So within the topical area, you have got what we call learning outcome. I'm sure you have that as well. So you look at the subject's learning outcome. In most subjects, we will normally have about 3 or 4, not more than 4, 3 to 4, sometimes 2 learning outcome. So look at the learning outcome and then connect it with activities that would fit into that learning outcome. So that's what you should do. So that means you should use your existing syllabus as your guide. We are not going out of your syllabus. Every course has its own syllabus. You're still going to use that. Only thing now is you're going to explore the depth. So the depth comes in the learning outcome. So how many percent? Let's say you got 3 learning outcome and let's say 4 learning outcome. So maybe of the 4 learning outcome, 10% from learning outcome number 1, 10% from learning outcome number 2, maybe 40% from 3 and 40% from 4. So that's how you construct your activities. Okay. Yeah, I hope I answered that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Another question here is corporate cognizance relate to critical thinking skills of individual? If yes, then how? Okay. Now, corporate cognizance is basically the fundamental of critical thinking. That means before going to critical thinking, you have to have corporate cognizance. That means you must have the necessary awareness of what is needed, what is important, what is critical. For example, today we talk about environmental pollution. So environmental pollution is critical today. So that is corporate cognizance. Now, next, critical thinking. So what about environmental pollution? What about environment? What do we need to do? How far have we got? How far should we explore? Like just now I mentioned about cement. That is part of environmental degradation. So what can we look at? How far can we go? How far can we look for alternatives? What are the alternatives available? Do we need to create alternatives? So that is where critical thinking comes in. So critical thinking can be applied in any areas. It's just that having corporate cognizance, being aware of what is being aware of what is expected, what are the critical areas in business, all right, would give you the avenue to think critically about it. So corporate cognizance is a precursor to critical thinking. Okay, am I okay with that, Sumon? I hope so. I've answered the question. Sri Hari has asked, excellent. Okay, all right. Yeah, yes. Okay. Any other question? You see, critical. Just to go a little bit further. Now, critical thinking should never be an extended thought process. Critical thinking should be your primary thought process. It is not an extended. That means it's not something extra. It should be, and more so as a what do you call that, academic. If you're into research and so on, or if you're into even if you're a corporate practitioner or whatever, I think critical thinking must be part of your persona, your makeup. That is your primary thinking. Then you're fine. It is not something that, oh, I'm going to think critically now. This is my normal mode. Now I'm going to think critically. No, it doesn't work that way.
There's another question, sir. Any tools for flipped classroom?
So, sorry, any what?
Any tools for flipped classroom? There's a question in the chat box, sir.
Any tools for flipped classroom. Now, the tools that I've mentioned, what I've mentioned is basically I've given you the tools, but I did not elaborate much on them. But you would be able to Google search it. You can find, what you do is you just click on some of the tools I mentioned, and then you Google search it, you'll find so many of them. Shouldn't be a problem at all. But there are many tools. Definitely there are many tools. You see, my job here was more to to share this modality. But maybe if we do a workshop on it, then we can explore the tools. That's a workshop. But here is more like introducing what flipped classroom is. But having said that, there are many tools. You can Google search it. You definitely will be able to find it. I can share some with you as well, no problem. I can share it with Dr. Padma, and he can share with the rest.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants. The feedback link is posted in the chat box. I request the participants to kindly check and fill the form. Expressing gratitude helps people feel positive emotions, cherish good experiences, and think deeply about what they have. It is important to find an approach to communicate your utmost appreciation with sincerity. I now request Mr. Deepak Kumar Sir, Assistant Professor, Department of BCom BPS, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, to express his words of gratitude.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. Small cheers and great welcome makes a merry fest. With this saying, first of all, I would like to thank the Almighty. It is my honor and privilege in proposing the vote of thanks for this gracious occasion. Young minds are like a sponge and they are looking for the right input to soak it in. We cannot think of a person more suitable to this other than Mr. Ravi Varman K. Kannappan, Senior Lecturer, Help University, Malaysia. We would like to extend our wholehearted thanks to you, sir, for accepting our request and gracing this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Padma. Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
bye.
When it comes to molding the young mind, there is no one better than him. I would like to thank our beloved principal, Dr. B.L. Shivakumar sir, Principal and Secretary, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, who has always supported and motivated us in all the endeavors. Thank you, sir. Great things happen when there is a gathering of great mind. It would not be correct if I fail to thank one such mind. Dr. V. Padmanabhan, Associate Professor and Head, Department of BCom BPS, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, who has always inspired and supported us. Thank you, sir. I would also like to extend our sincere thanks to the faculty members from various institutions around the globe, faculty members of our own institution, research scholars, and industrial experts who have joined us in today's session and made this a grand success. Thank you all. Last but not the least, I would like to thank the faculty friends of my own department and also the student coordinator and the technical team who have worked without any tire for the past 2 days, without whom this is not possible today. Thank you, friends. Once again, I would like to thank one and all who made today's section a great success. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for expressing your gratitude. Thank you all for your kind cooperation and active participation. Thank you.
Ravi, sir, thank you very much, sir, for your presence today. Thank you, sir. We'll meet
Most
again
welcome.
soon.
Most welcome. Okay. I'll
Thank you,
take
sir.
leave now. Okay.
Yes, sir. We can leave, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.